quantitatively determining slope is just where you're going to do some math and you're going to come up with a number, and that's going to be the value for slope. So here we have a blue line, and slope, you may remember from math class, is the change in the vertical axis, or what's called the y-axis. Change in the y-axis over the change in the x-axis value. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Anytime we do a change in anything, we do final minus initial. So we do a second point minus a first point. So all we need to know to determine slope are 2 points on a line, any 2 points on a line. So you can pick any 2 points and you can try to find the slope. Now, could you pick this point and this point? You could, but you're not going to get a very good value for slope, because really, what is that? It's somewhere between 10 and 15. It seems to be a little closer to 15. I'm looking at this point here. And really here, it's somewhere between 14 and 15, maybe 15 and a half. I don't know exactly, so I'm not going to pick these 2 points because these would be bad points. I don't know their value. I'm going to pick a point where I actually know what it is, like right here. I like to pick points where it crosses the axis because I know one of these values is going to be 0. So let me switch colors here so we don't get messed up. I'm going to pick this point right here because I know that's 10 on the horizontal axis. The value is 10. And on the vertical axis, that y value is going to be 0. So my points here would be 10 and 0. And I'm going to pick this point too. And I know that on the horizontal axis, this would be 0. And I know on the vertical axis, this is negative 30. So I have my 2 points that I'm going to use. Now, which ones are the 2s and which ones are the 1s? 2 is just what comes second. Going left to right, just like you would read a book left to right. Going left to right, this is the second point here. So the x value would be 10. So we'd call that x2. The y value 0, we could call that y2, and that would make this x1 and y1. And I can just plug it in over here into this equation. So y2 minus y1, y2 I see is 0, minus y1 is negative 30. I'll just put parentheses so we don't get mixed up with our signs, divided by x2, which I see is 10, minus x1, which I see is 0. And now I just do a little math. 0 minus negative 30 is the same as 0 plus 30. 10 minus 0 is just 10. And I get that the slope of this is 3. And I expect it to be a positive number because it is a positive slope, and I got a positive number, so that makes me happy. How else could I do this? How are you going to see me do this when I actually find slopes? I'm probably not going to I'm definitely not going to write all this out. I would just look at this and I would see, and I'm doing the exact same calculation, but I'm seeing that, well, it starts at negative 30 and it gets to 0, so it goes up 30. And it goes across 10. So I would just do 30 over 10 is 3. It's the same calculation. It's just kind of cutting out a lot of this. I don't need to see this. You could do it if you want. If you're used to doing it this way and that makes you happy, go for it. But you can just see this goes up 30 here and it goes across 10 here. And so that would be 30 over 10 is 3. So here's another line. Now it's a green line. And I would look at this and I would know that I should expect to get a negative number for the slope. I'm going to pick 2 easy points to help me find my slope. So let me mark those. I'll pick the starting point. So what are my x and y values here? Well, the x value, or that horizontal axis value right here, is 0. And the y value is positive 80. And I could pick any other point. I'm going to pick a point where it crosses, where it's right at the corner of these boxes here. And I'm going to pick this one down here, where the horizontal axis value is 40. And what is the vertical axis? Well, if I go over here, it's between 0 and 20, so I know that that would be 10. This is my second point, so I know this will be x2 and this will be y2. And I know that 0 is x1, and that 80 is y1. And I can just put it into here if I want. y2 is 10 minus y1 is 80. And x2 is 40 and x1 is 0. So I do a little math and I get negative 70 over positive 40. And so the slope here would be negative 7/4. And you can put that in your calculator and get, I guess you would get 1.75. As your answer. You could do the same thing with a little less arithmetic showing if you wanted. And you could go over here and you could say, well, this went down 70. And it went from 0 to 40. It went across 40. And so you could say, well, the slope is, it went 70 down, it went 40 across, and you would get the same thing. So I don't care how you do it. I just care that you get the right number. So here we have two lines, and we'll start with the purple one. I'm going to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick this point here where it crosses the vertical axis, and I'm going to pick this point here that falls right at that corner there. Let me write down what these coordinate points are. This, the horizontal axis, we always write them as xy pairs. So on the x-axis, the horizontal axis, it's 10. And on the vertical axis, it's positive 30. And for this point here on the horizontal axis, it is 0. Right? This is the horizontal axis. The x-axis right here is 0. I'm going to go up. That is 0, and the y-axis variable is 10. The vertical axis variable is 10. So if I want to find this slope, this would be the second point, right, going left to right. So this would be x2, y2. And this would be x1, y1. So y2 minus y1 would be 30 minus 10. x2 minus x1 would be 10 minus 0. 30 minus 10 is 20. 10 minus 0 is 10. So this would be 2. So the slope of that purple line is 2. Now let's look at the slope of this red line. Again, I'll pick this point here, which is negative 35. And I'll pick this point here where it crosses the horizontal axis at y equals 0. The x value here is 0. The y value is negative 35. Here the x value is 7. And the y value is 0. Now let me do this. Y2 minus y1. Y2 is 0. Minus y1 is negative 35. Divided by x2 is 7. Minus x1 is 0. So 0 minus negative 35 is 35. 7 minus 0 is 7. 35 over 7 is 5. So for both of these, we get a positive slope, which I would expect. Right? It should be positive. I can just see looking at these, they're positive. I get more than twice the slope for the red line, which looks about right because it is much steeper than the purple line. So those are the slopes for those two lines. That's how you calculate slope.